Hello, my name is Carrie Brown and I am with the Central Mississippi Regional Library System. Today, I'm going to be reading to you chapters 3 and 4 of A to Z Mysteries, The Bald Bandit. Written by Ron Roy, illustrated by John Stephen Gurney, published by Random House, New York. Chapter 3. With black shoe polish in his hair and plastic fangs in his mouth, Dink looked like Dracula. His mom had made him a cape from an old black raincoat. He tied the cape around his neck just as the doorbell rang. A strange creature stood on his porch. The thing was wrapped in green cloth. Tufts of red hair poked out at the top. Large black high tops stuck out at the bottom. "How do I look?" the thing asked. Dink took out his fangs and grinned. "Like some weird vegetable. Half carrot and half asparagus." Josh shuffled inside the house. "You look pretty good, Dink. I like the blood dripping down your chin." The bell dinged again. This time, it was a miniature Elvis. Ruth Rose was wearing a white suit with sequins everywhere. She even carried a little guitar. Her Elvis wig made her look about 2 inches taller. Ruth Rose strummed her guitar and wiggled her hips. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen," she said, taking a bow. "Come on in, Elvis," Dink said. "We have to talk about Operation Redhead before we go trick-or-treating." They sat at Dink's kitchen table. A basket of candy stood waiting for the neighborhood kids. "Here's my plan," Dink said. "Every house we go to, we ask if anyone knows a skinny red-headed kid." "That's my plan," Ruth Rose said. Dink grinned. "Oh yeah, I forgot." One of Ruth Rose's black eyebrows was crooked. "We have to keep our eyes peeled. Check out tall kids trick-or-treating." "Got it," Dink said. "Anyone with red hair, we ask them if they took a video of the bank robber," Ruth Rose went on. "Check," Dink said. "Any other ideas?" "Yeah, I got a great idea," Josh said. "Let's stop talking and get moving." Dink's mother walked into the kitchen. She screamed and clutched her chest. "Oh my goodness! Monsters in my kitchen!" Ruth Rose stood up. "I'm not a monster, Mrs. Duncan. I'm Elvis." Dink's mom adjusted Ruth Rose's left eyebrow. "I know, honey. You make a great Elvis. But these other two, ooh." She shuddered and made a terrified face. "We're going now, Mom." Dink fit the plastic fangs over his teeth. He handed Josh a paper bag and took one for himself. "Please be back in 2 hours, his mother said. "Dad and I will have some cider and donuts for you." The 3 kids each took a different street. They agreed to meet back at Dink's house in about 2 hours. Dink headed down Woody Street. He looked at every tall kid in a costume, checking for red hair. But most of the kids out were shorter than him. He counted 17 ghosts, 20 little witches, 8 angels with floppy wings, and a zillion small furry animals. Dink rang Mrs. Davis's doorbell. "Trick or treat!" "Oh, hello, Dink," said Mrs. Davis. She dropped a small bag of candy kisses into his sack. "Have you seen any red-headed kids tonight?" Dink asked. "Redheads?" Mrs. Davis patted her white hair. "I'm afraid I don't know anyone besides your friend Josh who has red hair." Dink thanked Mrs. Davis for the candy and walked next door to old Mr. Kramer's house. Mr. Kramer was a little deaf. "Do you know a skinny redhead?" Dink asked in a loud voice. Mr. Kramer turned one ear and leaned toward Dink. "What's that you say? A tiny red bed?" "A skinny redhead!" Dink yelled even louder. He wished he had Ruth Rose with him. She was the only one loud enough for Mr. Kramer to hear. Mr. Kramer dropped a nickel in Dink's bag and slammed the door. Dink sighed. He followed some ghosts to the next house on Woody Street. A gorilla opened the door when Dink rang the bell. It had a hairy chest and a huge mouth filled with yellow teeth. "Trick or treat," said Dink. The gorilla dropped a banana in Dink's bag. "Have you seen any tall red-headed teenagers walking around?" Dink asked. The gorilla grunted and shook his head. "Thanks anyway," said Dink. 2 hours later, Dink, Josh, and Ruth Rose poured their candy into Dink's dining room table. Dink took out his fangs. "Any luck?" he asked. Josh unwrapped his face. I saw 4 redheads, 2 girls, about 10 years old, and 2 adults. No one I talked to knew a skinny redhead in high school. Ruth Rose took off her wig and eyebrows and dropped them into her plastic jack-o'-lantern. Same here, she sighed, slumping into her chair. Nobody knew the right redhead, and I asked everybody. Josh ripped open a miniature bag of M&Ms. I really wanted that $100, he said. Maybe we should just forget it. Give up? After just 2 days? No way, you guys. Dink climbed up on the table. He wrapped his cape around his face so just his eyes showed. In his best Count Dracula voice, he said, "We will never give up." Chapter 4. The next morning, Dink's hair was stiff with black shoe polish. He shampooed 3 times before he got out of the shower. The bathroom mirror was fogged up when he tried to see his reflection. He wiped the mirror, looked at himself, and gasped. His hair wasn't its usual blonde, and it wasn't vampire black. It was a muddy brown color, like the rusty parts on his bike. "Mom, help!" His mother peeked into the bathroom. "What's the—" "Oh, I see." She giggled. "It's not funny, Mom. How am I supposed to go outside like this? My hair looks like it rusted." "Honey, lots of kids will have traces of makeup on their faces or color in their hair today. It's the day after Halloween." Dink rubbed a towel over his hair as hard as he could. He looked in the mirror. Now he had frizzy, rust-colored hair. "Be thankful it's Saturday," his mother said, smiling. "At least you don't have to go to school today." After breakfast, Dink jammed his baseball cap over his hair and headed for Josh's house. When Dink got there, Josh was already shooting hoops in front of his barn. He grinned at Dink. "What's wrong with your hair?" he asked. Dink yanked his hat off. "Take a look. That stupid shoe polish from last night won't wash out. I had to be a vampire, right? I couldn't just be a cowboy or an astronaut." Josh dribbled and took a shot. He missed the hoop. "So, have you thought of a plan for finding that kid with the video?" Josh asked. "No," said Dink, jamming his hat back over his head. "Well, what do we do now?" said Josh. "Ask at more houses?" "I don't know," Dink said. "Now that Halloween is over, we'd look pretty suspicious. Besides, Greenlawn has hundreds of houses. We'd be knocking on doors for a month." Josh made a perfect shot. 2 points. "We have to use our heads instead of our feet," Dink said, grabbing the ball after Josh's basket. A door slammed behind them. "Uh-oh," Josh mumbled. "Josh, it's time to go," his mother called. "Come in and brush your teeth, please." "I have a dentist appointment," Josh said. "Call me later, okay?" "Okay." Dink tossed Josh's ball into the barn and started walking away. "Hey!" Josh yelled behind him. "I think your new hair color looks just adorable." "Very funny," Dink muttered, tugging his hat down even tighter. "Maybe I'll cut my hair off," he thought. "Go to school bald on Monday." Suddenly, he stopped walking. Thinking about cutting his hair off gave him an idea. He ran toward Main Street. At Howard's barber shop, he peered through the glass. Howard was watching an I Love Lucy rerun on a small TV set. Dink walked in, setting off the sleigh bells hanging over the door. Whenever he came to Howard's for a haircut, Dink thought about Christmas. "What'll it be today, Dink?" Howard asked. "Want a flat top? How about one of them mohawk jobbies with the stripe down the middle?" "I don't want a haircut," Dink said. "I need to ask you something." Howard squinted one blue eye. He lifted Dink's baseball cap. "What happened to your hair?" Dink blushed. "I was a vampire last night. I used black shoe polish on my hair and it won't come out. I tried." Howard grinned. "Hop up in the chair, me lad. I'll dose you with me special shampoo. You can ask your question while I perform a little magic." Dink hung his hat on a peg and climbed into the barber chair. Howard pulled a bottle and some white towels out of a cupboard. "I was wondering if you know any kids with red hair," Dink said, "besides Josh." Howard draped a towel around Dink's shoulders and pinned it in the back. He misted Dink's hair with the spray bottle of water. I might, he answered. Why? Do you want me to dye your hair red? Dink laughed. No, I'm looking for a certain kid who has red hair. I think he's a teenager. I know one teenager who had red hair, Howard said, pouring green shampoo into Dink's hair. But I shaved it all off last week. Came running in here all excited, out of breath. Shave my head, he tells me. So I did. The smell of the shampoo made Dink's eyes water. He felt his heart start to tap dance. Was he carrying a video camera? Dink asked. Howard rubbed the shampoo into Dink's hair. Why all the questions about this red-headed boy? He asked. Dink thought for a few seconds, then decided to spill the beans. He told Howard about the bank robber, about the kid with the video camera, and about the $300 the detective had promised. Howard chuckled. Oh, now I see why the boy ran in here yelling for me to cut off all his hair. He didn't want the bank bandit to recognize him. So if I tell you this lad's name, you're going to persuade him to give you the videotape. Yes, if I can, Dink said. What about the money? Said Howard. Dink looked at Howard in the mirror. What about it? Would you be planning to share the reward with the red-headed boy? Dink grinned. Sure, we'll give him half of what we get from the detective. That sounds like a fine idea. Howard rubbed Dink's hair vigorously. Dink watched in the mirror. His hair was a slimy green mess. Does this stuff really get shoe polish out? He asked. Yup, invented it myself, Howard said. Secret recipe. I used it once to get bubble gum out of my granddaughter's hair. It took tar out of our dog's fur, too. Howard swung the barber chair around and lowered it back. He positioned Dink's head over the sink. Close your eyes, me boy. Let's wash this gook out and see what's what. Dink liked the feel of the warm water and Howard's fingers smoothing the shampoo out of his hair. After a few minutes, Howard sat him up and plopped a fresh towel on his head. Dry off. I think you're back to normal. Dink rubbed his hair with the towel, then looked in the mirror. He laughed out loud. You did it! Howard smiled at Dink's reflection. I should sell this stuff and make $1 million. How much do I owe you? Dink asked. This one's on me, young fella. And the boy with the red hair is Lucky O'Leary. He lives over on Robin Road with his mum and little brothers and sisters. All 6 of 'em. Nice kids. And every last one's a redhead. Except for Lucky, who suddenly decided to go bald. Thank you. Be sure to tune in next week for chapters 5 and 6. Goodbye.